So, greetings and thank you for being here. I'm Akosua Aset, and can you please introduce yourself? Would you be so kind?
Sure, I am Professor Spira, and I practice something called the Mucusless Diet Healing System.
Okay, the Mucusless Diet Healing System. Can you explain a little bit more about that? What is a mucusless diet?
So, the Mucusless Diet Healing System was put together by Professor Arnold Ehret back in the early 1900s, and he himself was really sick. He was suffering from something called Bright's disease. He was given a terminal diagnosis, saying he went to a number of different doctors. They didn't have anything for him to help him, and so he started investigating what we would today call naturopathic methods, natural methods, looking into things like fasting and eating better, more plant-based kind of way. But he really hadn't found the total package and system to heal himself. And at one point, he was kind of at the end of his ropes, and he did a fast, and he miraculously got better. And after 2 weeks of fasting, he had said he felt better than he had in many years. And so he started to put these things together in his mind, based, there was a lot of things he was kind of reading and studying. And there were these sanitariums, and he's from Germany, and he was in Germany and Switzerland. And at this time in the late 1800s, there was a lot of interest in what they call the back to nature movement or back to nature renaissance. It was kind of a countercultural answer to the burgeoning industrial Germany, the industrialization at that time. And so there was a big kind of middle class that was developing, but then there was a number of people that were saying, we're not supposed to live like this. We're not supposed to sit around all day, or be at a job for 8 hours or 9, whatever, how many hours, come home, and that kind of lifestyle. And so there were people that were leaving society and going out in the woods and living and out there and being vegetarian, that kind of thing. So he was in the midst of all of that, and he started working in some sanitariums where he was working with just a lot of people that had been deemed to be incurable. And over the years of working with thousands and thousands of people, he developed his system, what became the Mucusless Diet Healing System, which essentially is a way to transition off of pus and mucus forming foods. And pus and mucus forming foods essentially are foods that degrade into slime. So oftentimes when people first hear this, they think about the foods that cause a mucus response. And that's the wrong way to think about it. Yes, some of these foods can elicit the mucous membrane to secrete mucus of our body, but that's not the same mucus that we're talking about. Think about it like this. If you have some white bread and you put it in water for a couple hours and you let it sit there, are you going to want to eat that bread? That soggy, slimy, nasty bread. The longer it sits there, it just gets slimier and slimier. Compare that to fruit. If you put strawberries or grapes or watermelon in water like that for 3 hours, it doesn't turn into slime. In fact, people do that to infuse water, and that's like a thing that you could buy. So that's one way to look at it, into just sort of an outsider's view into what we're talking about, what foods degrade into this slimy sludge. When we say pus forming, those are going to be animal-based items. And when you think about it, our definition of pus is not necessarily the infection definition, but a very concentrated form of mucus. And if you think about something like dead animal flesh and secretions from animals, the dairy products and that kind of thing, these items degrade into a very, very viscous and concentrated form of mucus that we call pus. So when I say pus and mucus forming, mucus forming items are going to be mostly plant-based items that turn into slime. And so we just talked about white bread, which is, the wheat products. But we have, starchy products, fatty things. Now, huge part of the Mucusless Diet Healing System is a transition diet. And so we never tell anybody that you just have to get off of all of your favorite foods overnight, or that you're not allowed to eat this and that. We take a very measured and pragmatic approach, saying that how can you improve once you understand the principles, once you know which foods are less, even if they're mucus forming, there are not all mucus forming foods created equally. Some are cause less mucus, have less residue, leave behind less mucus residue. And so a huge part of the Mucusless diet is learning how to use foods to get off of the worst foods and transition your body so you have permanent physiological changes. So you no longer crave. It's not like a willpower thing where you're like, okay, I'm not going to eat these things. I'm going to force myself not to eat it. It's transitioning and changing your physiology so that you do not crave the foods that ultimately cause you harm.